Well, fine good evening, everyone. This is Patricia, and I am traveling for history from my home. The weather is just going to be abominably cold tomorrow. Yeah, I live in a cold climate. I've said from day one that I live in Vermont, and yeah. But the high tomorrow is supposed to be 2 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's equal to, what was that, minus 17 Celsius. And there's supposed to be wind chills as low as 35 degrees below zero Fahrenheit, which is equal to minus 37 degrees Celsius. So pretty close with wind chill there. So it's just going to be really unpleasantly cold outside. I can't be outside and record in that. I'm not even sure my phone would tolerate weather that cold, to be honest. My Samsung A52 5G is not as hardy as my LG G7 had been, and that phone was a hunk of junk. But it tolerated cold weather. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to do in this channel was introduce you to interesting history books. Whoa, don't run away. Don't turn off the this YouTube video thinking, oh my God, she's lost her mind. I lost that years ago. But the reality is that I have heard people say, I hate history. I don't like history. History is boring. I don't care for history. I think you get the idea. In fact, maybe you have said it yourself. And yet, history's not. It's not any of those things. It can be. If you've had to read even a little bit of history books in public school, which I attended public school too, I know that I read a lot of, oh God, this is awful, you know, stuff they dredged the bottom of the sea for, perhaps. I don't know where they got this junk from. And then college, wow, why are the professors making us read so many awful books? Do they not want us to enjoy what we're studying? Clearly not. And for those professors who had us read their own books, which were published, oh, what is the phrase for that? I think that's the phrase for it. My God, there wasn't one that was any good. Not a one. And that's a shame. Anyway, so part of my aim here is also to introduce you to some interesting history books. And in this video, my first in this series, I have one for you. My absolute favorite history book of all time. You heard that correctly. It's a great, easy, breezy read. When was the last time you ever heard someone say that about a history book? I'm guessing never. But I've got one for you. I've read this book 4 times. And it is the Histories by Herodotus. Now, Herodotus is known as the father of history because his book happens to be extant, meaning it exists. This is the one that's been found. It's been around, well, for centuries, and it's a great read. Now, understand he wrote it in ancient Greek, so unless you read ancient Greek, then you won't get the full benefit of reading it, because the original language is always the best. But there are certainly wonderful translators, not just translators though, but those who bring it to life, bring the language to life in another language. Now, I've read plenty because I have a degree in history, but not only that, but I really focused on as many ancient history courses as I possibly could. So one thing I noticed was there was a variety of poets who would translate a work, and I love poetry, and I enjoy writing poetry, but those two, text and poetry, do require different ways of dealing with language. So I found a variety of the books that were translated by poets not to be as good as those that were translated by someone who was writing a history book, for instance. So your experience could certainly be different from mine, and I hope that's the case. But you'd have to read some of it to get a feel for it, which I always want to encourage people to do. And even better, you don't even have to own anything like this. You can just get it from the library. What, your library doesn't carry it? I wouldn't be surprised about that at all, actually. But you would ask for an interlibrary loan. I believe libraries all over the U.S. do that. I can't speak for other countries. And it's free. You just need your library membership card and ask them to get a copy of this book for you. And they'll find it at some other library close by, and or the nearest library to them anyway, and have it delivered to you. I do that with a variety of books. Now, I happen to own this one. I've read this book 4 times. 4. And thinking it might be time to pull it off the shelf again. Now, this one, now this is a Penguin book, a Penguin classic, put out by Penguin. The problem with Penguin copies, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but no, I don't think you can make that out. The pages are browning. You know how annoying that is? I bought this book brand new. When Borders was going out of business, Borders Books was going out of business, I went and bought a whole bunch of stuff. And I bought this book too. But the pages are browning. That's so disappointing. And I have found that a lot of Penguin books will do that. Certainly the ones I had in college. They got so bad I couldn't read them anymore. But I would describe this book as more of a travelogue than a history book, because Herodotus traveled to all these different locations and then talked about the histories of the places, which is pretty fascinating. I find this a really easy breezy read, and one of the best parts of this book, it has lots of wonderful stories in it. Well, some of them are bad stories, but they're so well written, But anyway, it's in his book that we learn about how the Egyptians mummified their corpses. And I'm going to read you a bit of the passage. I want to warn you that some of this is graphic and, what's the word? Kind of gross. Not even kind of. It's, well, just be a fair warning. Some of it is kind of gross. All right, so this is on page 127 to 128. I'm not going to read all of that to you, but I'm going to read some of this to you. But it starts on page 127. Mummification, quote, mummification is a distinct profession. The embalmers, when a body is brought to them, produce specimen models in wood, painted to resemble nature, and graded in quality. The best and most expensive kind is said to represent a being whose name I shrink from mentioning in this connection. The next best is somewhat inferior and cheaper, while the third sort is cheapest of all. After pointing out these differences in quality, they ask which of the 3 is required, and the kinsmen of the dead man, having agreed upon a price, go away and leave the embalmers to their work. The most perfect process is as follows. All right, this is the warning. Ooh, gross, coming your way right now. As much as possible of the brain is extracted through the nostrils with an iron hook, and what the hook cannot reach is rinsed out with drugs. Next, the flank is laid open with a flint knife, and the whole contents of the abdomen removed. The cavity is then thoroughly cleansed and washed out, first with palm wine and again with an infusion of pounded spices. After that, it is filled with pure bruised myrrh, cassia, and every other aromatic substance with the exception of frankincense, and sewn up again, after which the body is placed in natrum, covered entirely over for 70 days, 70 days, never longer. When this period, which must not be exceeded, is over, the body is washed and then wrapped from head to foot in linen, cut into strips and smeared on the underside with gum, which is commonly used by the Egyptians instead of glue. In this condition, the body is given back to the family, who have a wooden case made, shaped like the human figure, into which it is put. The case is then sealed up and stored in a sepulchral chamber upright against the wall. When, for reasons of expense, the second quality is called for, the treatment is different. No incision is made and the intestines are not removed, but oil of cedar is injected with a syringe into the body through... Well, you get the idea. Unquote. So, how do we know this is correct? Well, a doctor decided to test it out. And he worked with a museum director. So the doctor was able to get a body that had been donated to science. The body in question was a man who was about 70, who was not taking medications. And the museum director was knowledgeable in what Herodotus had written and guided the doctor to do these things, and discovered that the description that Herodotus offered worked. So, I just love that story. There actually was a PBS documentary on that. And let me see. Let me see if I can... let me pause this for a moment and see if I can find the scientist who, or the doctor rather, who performed this. Hang on just a moment. I'll be right back. Well, unfortunately, I can't find it right now, but I'll do what I can to find it for the description underneath. This was easily, gosh, 30 plus years ago. I remember watching it on PBS such a long time ago. But anyway, so I've read this book 4 times. I had to read it for a class, and then after I graduated, I read it again. And about 10 years later, I read it yet again, and then again after that. And I just love this book. And I really think that if you were so inclined, that you would enjoy this book as well. It's a great read. It doesn't read like a stodgy history book, thank goodness. And why not give it a chance? And you get it from the library. It's free. It's free. And you know, there's a section where he's gone to China. Talks about how the ancient Chinese, he wrote in the 5th century BC, or BCE if you prefer. When I was in school, it was BC and AD. It's funny, a lot of people say after death, but Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. But anyway, I can't recommend this book enough. It's so much fun. I do have other history books I'll be suggesting as really great reads. And you could take my word for it. But I hope that you would be interested in reading it. These are divided into books. And, I mean, the whole thing is a book. But rather than chapters, they're called books. Not a lot is known about Herodotus. But he does mention the Peloponnesian War in this book, which is in the 400s, 424, 423 BC, somewhere along there. But he doesn't actually write about that in here. Have to chuckle. Thucydides wrote a book called the Peloponnesian War. And if you're thinking a history book that is dull as dishwater, follows a course of events, and is boring as I don't know what. Well, we can thank Thucydides for that, because his book, The Peloponnesian War, is, oh, God. I like a chronological order for facts. It's very handy for that. But, oh my gosh, it's such a boring read. Such a boring read. Especially compared to Herodotus. But maybe you prefer Thucydides to Herodotus. I'd be interested to see to read what you have to say about that in the comments below. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video, and if you like my content overall, subscribe to the channel. What you waiting for? I'm giving you a personal invitation. Come on and join me. It's fun, and I have a good time. I enjoy being outside and filming, like cemeteries and stuff. Snow's too deep now to visit cemeteries. Darn, it's one of my favorite places to visit. So many interesting people buried in those places. So we'll see if I can get inside any buildings and film inside buildings. But I'm not going to be out tomorrow. It's just too doggone cold. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, Traveling for History, same as the channel, 1L in traveling. I'm on Twitter, that's Traveling for High 1, HI with the numeral 1. I had no choice about that. That's what Twitter gave me. Apparently Traveling for History was too long a name for their social media platform. But I post to all of these places every day of the week. And I hope that you'll come along with me. I do respond fairly quickly in the comments sections, because usually I'm holding my phone. And so when that's the case, I can answer you. And do have conversations with people in there, and happy to answer questions too. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you have a great night. Oh my, it's 11:30 something p.m. 11:36 p.m. My time. I should wrap this up. So thanks so much for watching, and this is Patricia. I'm Traveling for History, and you have a great night until I see you again.